this meeting of May 10th of the Plan Commission to order. Quorum is present. Our first order of business will be to hear from our technical facilitator.
All right, welcome to our virtual Plan Commission meeting. We'll cover a few basic items before beginning. If you lose connection at any point during the meeting, you can reconnect by clicking the link or calling the number on your original email. To members and city staff, members, if you are able, please activate your video and keep it on for the duration of the meeting. Staff, if you are able, please activate your video when you are speaking. The chair, clerk, and technical facilitator are responsible for muting and unmuting committee members. Use the raise hand feature when you'd like to be recognized to speak, ask questions, or request a roll call vote. During any roll call, all panelists will be unmuted briefly. Staff, click raise hand when you are asked a question. The chair will do their best to call on committee members in the order in which their hands are raised. Lowering your hand will take you out of the queue. Members of the public who have registered to speak, the name you entered in Zoom must match the name you enter in registration. You will remain muted until called upon. The clerk will tell you when your time is up. After speaking, a member of the body may ask you a question. If you need to share documentation with the board, please send it to the email listed in today's agenda. Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jesse. First, we have public comment. I do not see that we have anyone registered for public comment. I will look to Heather Stouter. That's correct. Okay, very good. Then moving on to communications, disclosures, and recusals. Members of the body should make any required disclosures or recusals under the city's ethics code. Are there any disclosures or recusals? Seeing no raised hands, there are no then disclosures or recusals. Moving on to the minutes of our April 26th regular meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing no raised hands, could I get a motion then for approval? Moved by Commissioner Cantrell, seconded by Commissioner Solheim. We will come to a vote. I will assume unanimous consent on approval of the minutes unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands to object, the minutes are approved. Next is the schedule of meetings. Our next regular meetings are May 24th, June 7th, and June 21st. We have a special meeting this Thursday, May 13th. It starts at 5 p.m. I would ask that people please try to be prompt for that. I know that it is a half an hour early, so notice that it is a half an hour earlier. Also, there is really quite a bit of information to take a look at before that meeting. So I would ask then commissioners to really take a good look at that information and think about what we're going to be considering. Some of the information is similar to what we saw at our earlier meeting. So those who have been on the Plan Commission for a year will have seen some of that information, but some has changed, and there is an ordinance that we will be looking at. There's also information on possible parking changes to accompany TDM, which would help make the TDM successful. So be sure to take a look at those and think about those too. Next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. And as you probably know and are kind of grateful for, given our next meeting is only this Thursday, there's a lot of items that are on our consent agenda. So these are the items which are on the consent agenda. Oh, first let me say that consent agenda are those items which staff believes an application has had sufficient review to warrant approval with all the conditions placed upon it by various city departments, and on which the applicant accepts those conditions, and there are no individuals who have registered to speak in opposition to the meeting, to the item tonight. Those items are placed on the consent agenda, and we address those at the beginning of the meeting. We also include on the consent agenda items which are to be referred. So then those items which are proposed for the consent agenda are agenda item 2 for referral, agenda item 3 for the consent agenda, agenda item 4 for referral, agenda item 5 and 6 on the consent agenda, agenda item 7. And then kind of a last minute request for referral is agenda item 8. And then on the consent agenda is agenda item 9. Are there any requests by commissioners for separation? Seeing no raised hands, I will go back and read the consent agenda items then into the record. First is agenda item 2, Legistar 65252, authorizing the city to join a petition to vacate or alter the platted public service strip between lots 11 and 12 in block 20 of Nakoma. And then public hearings, the agenda item 3 is to be referred to May 24th at the request of the applicant. And then on the consent agenda is agenda item 4, Legistar 60000, located at 2649 East Springs Drive, 17th Alder District. Consideration of a demolition permit to allow a restaurant tavern to be demolished. Consideration of a conditional use in the commercial corridor transition district for a vehicle access sales and service window for a proposed restaurant. Consideration of a conditional use in CCT for an outdoor eating area for the restaurant, and consideration of a conditional use in the CCT district to exceed the 65-foot maximum front yard setback for lots with no on-street parking. And then 2 items for referral as requested by the applicant to May 24th is agenda item 5 and 6, Legistar 64584 and Legistar 64585, located at 145 through 151 West Wilson Street and 309 through 321 South Henry Street. So those are for referral. And then for on the consent agenda, agenda item 7, Legistar 64747, located at 134 South Fair Oaks Avenue, 6th Alder District, consideration of a conditional use in the traditional employment district for general retail, and consideration of a conditional use in the TE district for a market garden to allow a pharmacy tenant in a mixed-use building with associated garden. And then for a referral, agenda item 8, Legistar 64748, and that's to be referred at the request of the applicant to May 24th. And then on the consent agenda, agenda item 9, Legistar 64749, located at 1046 East Washington Avenue, 2nd Alder District, consideration of a conditional use in the traditional employment district for a restaurant tavern, and consideration of a conditional use in that district for an outdoor eating area to allow a restaurant tavern tenant in a mixed-use building with an outdoor eating area. Any questions on any of those items for referral or the consent agenda? Seeing no raised hands, I would be looking for, sorry. The raised hands are coming up in a very light color this time for whatever reason on my listing, and it's a little hard to see. So I see that there is one question or comment. Alder Heck, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make sure I understood our process. I see that there are some speakers registered in support of items on the consent agenda, and that doesn't mean that they're automatically removed from the consent agenda. Is that correct?
That's correct. Those individuals have been contacted to find out if they do want to speak or if their item is on the consent agenda, if they would decline to speak. So they have been contacted and have declined speaking.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay, then I would be looking for a motion. Commissioner Cantrell.
I'll move approval of the consent agenda and also the referrals as you've presented.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion? Seconded by Alder Lemmer. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, we will come to a vote, and I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands to object, the motion passes unanimously. Moving on, is there any business by members? Seeing no raised hands, we will move to the Secretary's report. Heather.
Thank you, Chair Zellers. I wanted to mention that the recent council meeting last week, the council unanimously approved the planned development request at 1901 Aberg Avenue for the Occupy Madison portable shelter units. Looking forward to May 24th, our next meeting, I'll mention a couple of items here. The return of 9301 Crosswinds Lane, the construction of 32 new units in 2 buildings. And then second on the list there at 12 North View Street, demolition to demolish a portion of building to construct a new 2-story addition to that building with 8 commercial spaces and 8 apartments. And then moving ahead to June 7th, I'll mention just the first few here on the list. First, 216 South Hamilton Street, demolition permit for the demolition of a single-family home for a building with 4 live-work units. And then out on Town Center Drive, a planned development for the construction of 74 apartments in 3 buildings. And finally, at 621 Pioneer Road on the far west side, a rezoning and plat of Fox Knoll for about 40 new single-family lots. And those are, I think, the issues that we expect could expect some discussion on. I also wanted to mention that on May 18th, the Common Council is scheduled to hear and make a decision on the housing ordinances that the Plan Commission had recommended the substitute for on March 22nd. And just wanted to mention that at this point, staff is not aware of any new changes that the council would be seeing beyond the substitute that the Plan Commission recommended, and then the alternate that Alder Foster has recommended that's been on Legistar for and since late March. And so there aren't any new changes since that late March council meeting. If anyone has any questions about that batch of ordinances, please feel free to reach out to me directly. And I think that is it for this evening.
Thank you, Heather. Are there any further announcements from any of the commission members or staff? Seeing none, I would be looking for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Commissioner Cantrell. Is there a second? seconded by Alder Aboris. And I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands to object, we will conclude our meeting and adjourn. Thank you all very much, and I will see you on Thursday at 5 o'clock. Thank you.